Hey everybody, how you doing? I thought I would go ahead and um, just let you know I'm doing well, doing fine, and I hope you are too. So I thought I'd go ahead and show you some memes today, something a little bit different, and then after that I'll review some of the problems that are in next gen. And we had to not input grades till they were going to figure out what the grades are and lock them in place so that the grades would not go down. So I could not input any grades. I'll be inputting grades this weekend. So I'll start that. So you'll gradually see your grades start to rise. Okay, that's it for now. So just kind of enjoy the memes. I'll kind of narrate over them. So let's see if I can get to it right now. So here's the first one here. Day 18 of the lockdown. Fill the dog with helium. The human has been working from home the last couple of days, and ever so often they let me participate in the video calls. All the other humans cheer when they see me. I am the only thing holding their company together. Yeah, I bet that's what they think. Oh, was I speeding, officer? Yeah, this is worth a lot of money. Something fun to try because one is ice cream and the other is refried beans, and my kids are needing a lesson. That's the ice cream and that's the refried beans. Everyone at my funeral gets a taser. Last one standing gets my truck. Well, that would be fun. How long have we been on lockdown? Yeah, it seems like a long time, doesn't it? But even if it is that bad, it's not as bad as what these people are facing. This is in Africa, somewhere in Africa. I forgot exactly where it was. But let me expand this out. And you can see how crowded they are in this situation. You can just imagine if one of those people, if one of those persons was able to, they got the COVID-19, that thing would just spread around like wildfire there. So you may have it rough right now, it may be disappointing, you don't have the freedom, but some people, many people around the world have it much worse than we do. In Italy, this guy discovered that his neighbor was in the hospital, so he continued to feed the guy's dog until the neighbor returned. So you want to take care of your neighbors. You don't know what situation they're in. They may be in a lot worse situation than you are. So see if you can lend us some assistance if you can. And you know what? With sometimes with things being kind of rough, it's just nice to see a picture of a mouse sleeping in a flower. That's cute. Let me just see if I can expand that. Oh, that's nice. Okay, so we're going to go on to today's lesson and continue doing the next gen assignments. Keep on doing that. I'll enter your grades in. You'll see they'll gradually start rising up. Okay, so let's do a quick review before we start. Okay, remember we talked about proportions, and proportions are just equal ratios, and we use cross products to solve or to see if they're equal, if they are proportion, but we also use them to find a missing number. But remember, cross products like these two multiplied equal these two multiplied. And then we were able to use cross products to find a missing number. So here's a couple of examples. Again, these two, 11x, equal these two. And you divide by 11, and then you'd get your answer. Now, sometimes they would have units, and then when they have units, then go ahead, make sure you line up the units, like dollars per hour, dollars per hour. And then you know where to put the numbers at. Now, sometimes they have it where there's 1 in the denominator, and that would be what we call unit rate. That would be unit rate. Now, here's another example is when we were using fractions. And so there's fractions in there instead. So let's say, for example, sugar and flour, sugar, flour, sugar, flour. We want to know for 1 cup of flour, how much sugar. And we have these 2 fractions. You just simply divide them. If we use cross products, you'd end up dividing this top one, dividing by the bottom one. And so we continue that. I just rewrite it like this, sideways. And then we use our times plus, make them fractions, and we end up with our answer. We had this first problem last time. It's a proportional relationship between the number of cups of sugar and water for hummingbird food. And so here's how much sugar for this much water. And then the question is, how much is it for 1 cup of water? So that's pretty much just like this is what it's saying. Here's the water, here's the sugar, how much for 1 water? And so we did the math on this. We set it up as a proportion. Right, so there's our table. And we said, okay, well, 1 sugar, 3 waters, how much sugar for 1 water? And we wrote that down, like so. And we used cross products and solved it. Then we had another problem that was pretty much the same, except now it had fractions in there. And it was how many apples to bananas for a smoothie. So they want to know how many bananas, how many apples for 1 cup of bananas. And so we set up a proportion using these 4 things right here. We wrote that as a proportion like this. Right? This divided by this is this divided by that. Apples, banana, apples, banana. And then we did our times plus. Right? We wrote it sideways, did times plus. Then we multiplied by the reciprocal. Multiplied by the reciprocal, and then we ended up getting our answer. So it was the same thing, only it was just with fractions. Then our next problem dealt with an equation that looks like this, and this was for punch and water for a recipe. How much punch and water? And so 3 punch equals 42 water, and the question is, how much is it for 1 milliliter of punch? So it wants to know how much punch, for 1 punch, how much water? That's the question. And we said, okay, well, 3 punch is 42 water, 1 punch is how much water? Or you could actually write it the other way, like a unit rate, with 1 down here. So water over punch, water over punch. It doesn't matter which way you do it, as long as you put the numbers with the right variable, right units. Okay, then we did cross products. Right, 3 times x is equal to 42 times 1. Divide by 3, and their answer is 14. So today, you'll have a problem similar to that, and this has to do with papaya juice and orange juice together. And it's a proportional relationship. And the question is, how much papaya juice for 1 liter of orange juice? Now what's different is, this is fractions. This is fractions. So we'll set up the exact same as what we did previously. And that is, we'll take the fraction divided by the fraction. We have papaya juice, orange juice. Papaya juice, orange juice. It's asking for 1 orange juice. How much papaya juice? Okay, let me zoom in a little bit there. All right, so I will just rewrite this. This is just like we did previously. So it's this divided by that. 3 3/5 divided by 8 2/5. I'll just rewrite it. And then after I rewrote that, now I'm going to do the times and the plus. The times and the plus. 5 times 3 plus 3 is 18. 5 times 8 is 40, and 2 more makes 42. All right, then we're going to multiply. Dividing means multiply by reciprocal. So we multiply by, I have to reverse this. This is going to be 5 over 42. Okay, what can we reduce? Well, we know that 5 goes into 5 once, and 18 and 42, 6 will go into both of those. I think 6 is the largest one that goes in there. Let's see. 6 goes in here once. Once. On another planet. 6 goes in here 3 times, and 6 goes into 42 7 times. 6 times 7 is 42. So what we have here is 3 times 1, 1 times 7. The answer is 3 7ths. 3 7ths cup. The next type of problem deals with, well, let's take a look. Table shows a proportional relationship between miles driven, that's X, and gallons of gas, that's Y. So this is the gas, and this is the miles driven. But what they want you to do is determine the proportionality and enter an equation. So you're supposed to put in a number. We have Y equals something X, and this something is the unit rate. And to find unit rate, we basically just take any point, Y over X, and that will give us the unit rate. Now let me just review real fast on your notes. So if we have a relationship that's proportional, like distance and time, miles and hours, we take the Y over the X, 20 over 1, 40 over 2, 60 over 3, etc. And notice that they end up being the same number. They end up being 20. If you divide them, it ends up being 20. That's called a constant of proportionality. Remember that word? It's also the unit rate. And they usually give it the symbol K, but other times they may give it some other symbol, so it really doesn't matter. And what we do is we write that as an equation. We can write it as an equation, where we have Y equals whatever that rate was, 20. Y equals 20x. This would be an equation for this table. And then on another page in your notes, we did this graph. There's 3 graphs, 3 lines, and it had to do with robots and how far they traveled and how much time. And so what we did is we had these points, and these points we put in a table, and then we tried to figure out the equation for it. And the equation is Y equals something X, whatever the unit rate is. So in this case, you can take any Y over X, it doesn't matter, as long as this line is proportional. So 5 over 1, so it's 5. Y over X, the answer is 5. So it is Y equals 5X. In another one, it's 1.5, or 3 over 2, which is 1.5. So it could be 1.5x. All right, so this is how we wrote the equation, and that's what the question is asking. So because it's proportional, I can take any Y over X, any point Y over X, and that will be the unit rate. That will go right in there, the proportionality. So I could use 16 over 2. That's just 8. Or I could use 40 over 5. Again, that is just 8. See, they're all 8. That is the constant of proportionality. 8. So my equation is going to be Y equals 8x. Excuse me. And by the way, when you enter this in the computer, don't use capital letters. Don't use capital. Just use normal, standard letters. Okay. So that's all that's kind of new. All the rest of it is review. I know you'll do well. Good luck. Do your best.
And don't forget, you can always go back to the videos, rewind them while you're working on the problems. You can do that.